بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum, my first secondary grade students. Today from your book Megago 1 we have some meaning and function to form for you in this lesson. So if we get started with what we'll learn today, as you can see we have three major objectives. Number one, we're going to make questions with how much and how many. Two, we're going to use quantity expressions correctly, and finally form clauses with when. So for number one, we're going to learn how to do some questions with how many and how much, which one we use for countable and non-countable nouns. And also we use these kind of expressions that are related to quantity, countable and non-countable, with other expressions correctly, like a lot of, a little, some, a few, and so on. And for three, we're going to form clauses with when. So we have when clauses or WH clauses, and today we'll learn how to do clauses with when. If you take a look at this picture, this man has really a terrible toothache. He can't eat, he can't drink, and also he may not be able to sleep. So the question is that what will you do when you have a toothache? If you did not brush your teeth and you have neglected your teeth for a long time and you don't take care of them, sooner or later you will have a toothache. And this toothache could be from your gum, from cavity, and of course because you don't use dental floss, you don't brush your teeth, or you don't use mouthwash. So in the end, and of course you eat too much sugar, in the end you will have toothache. So when you have a toothache, you will have to remember to brush your teeth, take care of your teeth, use a dental floss, and also a mouthwash. But if you have toothache, you need to go to a dentist or a doctor so he can help you. So you will go to the doctor, and the doctor that works with the your teeth, we call him a dentist. So now we have some question words most of the students really don't remember to do very correctly, which is when we use how many and how much. For how much, we use it to ask about quantity of uncountable nouns. Uncountable nouns like sugar, tea, oil, anything that is uncountable. It means you cannot count it. How much sugar, how much tea, how much coffee, all of this. And how many is the opposite, to ask about the quantity of plural countable nouns, so we can count them. How many books? 3, 4, 5, you can count them. How many cars, how many pens, how many pencils, all of these are countable nouns. In a rule, we either use how much uncountable, how many countable, with a noun, how much sugar, how much books, how many books, and so on, with the subject and the rest of the sentence, or we call it sentence complement. Here is an example. If I give you this two sentences: one, I have eaten 2 sandwiches, or Ahmed drinks tea twice a day. So if I ask you to make a question for the first one, I have eaten 2 sandwiches. So this 2 sandwiches is, as you can see the S here, it is countable. 2 sandwiches, 3 sandwiches, 10 sandwiches. So the question is, if you want to make how many, why many? Because sandwiches are countable. How many sandwiches have you eaten? How many sandwiches have you eaten? Why did I use how many noun and the question with subject and rest of the sentence, which is a verb here? Because sandwiches is countable. How many sandwiches have you eaten? And Ahmed drinks tea twice a day. So if you have twice, which is a number, so we say How much tea does Ahmed drink a day? How much tea? Tea is uncountable and he drinks it twice a day. So how much, we use it for tea because tea is uncountable. So we use much for uncountable like tea, sugar, oil, coffee, and countable with how many because sandwiches, books, cars are countable. If we move on to the quantity expressions, so we have expressions of quantity for countable and non-countable, so we use them for both. So we can say a lot of sugar and we can say a lot of books. We can say some sugar or some books. We can say some milk also. So these two, a lot of and some, which are actually most of the time they are informal, but we use them for both countable and non-countable. But expressions of quantity also for countable nouns, or the nouns that we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the number one, of course, it's always singular, like one book, one car, one door, one pen, one TV. So this is one for the singular and without s, and you know this. But for two and more, 2 and 100, 2 and 1000, so now we're in the plural. So 2 and all other numbers for plural countable nouns, like several books, many books, a few books, several cars, many cars, a few cars, several pens, many pens, a few pens. And finally, for the expressions of quantity which non-countable or non-count nouns or uncountable nouns, we use much and a little. How much time have we left? How much money have we got? A little money, a little time, how much sugar, how much oil, how much tea, how much. These are all non-countable now. It means you cannot say how many waters. No, how much water, a little water, and so on. So if we choose the correct answer here, either much or many, either a lot of or much, or here many and a few. So John eats much bananas, or John eats many bananas. This is S, it means it's countable. So for countable we say how many. That's right, thank you very much. 2, he has a lot of stamps or much stamps. Stamps is countable, you see the S, 2 stamps, 3 stamps, so we choose a lot of stamps. 3, Nasser writes many words or a few words. And of course we choose a few words. So now words connected with medicine and clauses with when. So first we start a sentence with a WH, either when or what or how. And what about the rest of it? The rule is that when you're asked, what do you do when? Or how do you feel when? So the rule is we start with when, subject, verb, and a verb most of the time is used in the present simple. So what do you do when you feel hungry? Or how do you feel when you are feeling hungry, and so on. So let's take an example here. Now make questions out of the following situations using what do you do and answer them. You have toothache. What do you do? Okay? You have the flu. What do you do if they have the flu? What do you do if you have toothache? So if you have toothache, so what do you do? This is the first part. What do you do when? You, subject, verb in the present, and the rest of the sentence. So what do you do when you take, what do you do when you have toothache? Take a painkiller. Take a painkiller. What do you do when you have a toothache? Take a painkiller. You have the flu. So what do you do when you have the flu? What do you do when you have the flu? You take medicine. You take medicine mostly, which is anti-cold or anti-flu medicine. That's it. So what did we do today? Today we have learned how to form question words with how many and how much, and we said How much, we use it to ask about quantity of uncountable nouns. How much milk, how much sugar, how much oil, how much coffee, how much tea, because we can't count tea or coffee, or how much rice, or how much wheat. And how many, to ask about the quantity of plural countable nouns. So we can count them, and you can see the S of the, plural. Like, how many books, how many tables, how many chairs, how many windows, how many watches. All of these are countable nouns, so we use how many. And the rule is how much or how many, it depends on the noun here. If this noun is countable, so we say how many. And if it's non-countable or uncountable, we say how much. And with the rest of the sentence starting with a verb and the sentence complement. And also today we learned that we have words that can be connected with medicine and clauses with when. So when you are sick, okay, they ask you, what do you do? All right, when subject verb present. What do you do when you feel sick? What do you do when you feel sick? What do you do when you have the flu? What do you do when you have a fever? Or how do you feel when you have a fever? How do you feel when you have toothache? How do you feel when you have a broken arm? So we answer in a certain way. And finally, we talked about the expressions of quantity. We use a lot of and some for both countable and non-countable nouns, like a lot of sugar and a lot of books. Sugar is uncountable, books is countable. We can say some sugar, some books. Sugar is uncountable, books is countable. And for the numbers, for the singular, for one, okay, like one book, two books, three books, and two and more, which are in a plural now, we say several books, many books, a few books, several cars, many cars, a few cars, several students, many students, a few students. So it's always, countable. Expressions of quantity for non-countable nouns, such as much and a little, always with non-countable noun, like, sheep, like sugar, oil, tea, coffee, all that are liquid, so we can countable. Or like salt, those really with too many particles that you cannot count. So that was all for today. These are the references taken from your book, the student book and the teacher's guide, and also some clip arts from Google on the pictures. You can use these for extra activity if you like. And finally, for more information and lessons, you can visit us on education.com, and also follow us on Twitter for more information, and also for any technical support. You have a 24/7 phone number for any of your inquiries. Thank you for watching this. Until we meet again, have a good day, and Assalamu alaikum.